So, dear participants, esteemed guest, Dr. Laldas, the IQAC coordinator and chief coordinator of this research webinar series, Dr. Minimol K, our respected principal, Dr. Sister Veena Jose, in absentia, all the social work department members, and of course, enthusiastic participants, a very warm good afternoon to one and all, along with members of the Research and Consultancy Cell and the core committee members of the IQAC. We have great pleasure in inviting you all, welcoming you all to this online session, which is the second session of EXPLORIGATE research webinar series organized by Vimala College, Thrissur, Kerala. The session that we're beginning is Social Work Intervention Research, and joining us to lead the session today is the esteemed author, academician, and research consultant, Dr. D.K. Laldas, sir. We bow before the Almighty for all the blessings as we step into session 2 of EXPLORIGATE. Warm welcome to one and all. It is our pleasure and honor to have Laldas, sir, with us today. For the entire fraternity of social workers, students, researchers, teachers, practitioners, Laldas, sir, needs no introduction. He acquired his doctoral degree from the University of Indore, Masters in Social Work from the University of Indore, and an LLB from the University of Calcutta. Sir has been the research director and principal of Rhoda Mystery College of Social Work, Hyderabad. And Sir has been interested in and enthusiastically active in all the research and academic endeavors in the field of social work. Sir, the major projects that Sir has undertaken, well, there are quite a few in number, but probably I cannot but highlight the ones that have been sponsored by reputed agencies like the UGC, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, Ministry of Social Welfare, Government of India, Ministry of Social Work, Andhra Pradesh, the Australian Aid of Australia, UNICEF, CARE organization. These are but some of the various governmental and non-governmental organizations that Sir has been associated with in all the research projects that he has undertaken. Sir has also designed, developed, and organized close to 10 different short-term research short-term research courses. And Sir is the author of books that are held in high repute and referred to often by the fraternity of social work, which include approaches to social sciences research methods, doing social work, research methods for social work, designs of social research, practice of social research. But listing out Laldas sir's books would be a futile attempt. I'm sure his must be the books that you go to when you're running to the library for research. And Sir has presented papers and been a part of conferences across India and across the world, ranging from countries like Japan, Canada, Netherlands, Austria, Egypt, and Singapore. But probably what we all would be very, very obliged to Laldas sir would be what we all have jumped into now thanks to the pandemic. Digital platforms. E-learning is a field that we all are trying to grapple with right now, but Laldas sir is a pioneer in e-learning in the field of social work studies and research. Sir has been at the forefront of digitizing research and academics in social work. Sir, with great pride, honor, and with great excitement to this session, may I, on behalf of the IQAC and the Research and Consultancy Cell of Vimala College, Thrissur, invite you to this session. The forum is yours, sir. Welcome to our midst, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We begin with social work intervention research.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak on one of the most beloved topic, which I hope every social worker, social work students, teachers, practitioners must know, learn, and practice. Before I start my presentation, I'll tell you something about the backdrop of how I have started and how I am trying to propagate this. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, when social work education started in India, the research was handled by people from social science background, experts of social research, and they introduced social work research with the content of social science research, and that is kept on, in the most of the schools of our country, most of the university syllabus they have included, and it remained at the level, social work research at the level, but the inside, the contents and all were social research or social surveys. So when I was asked by the UGC to produce a literature on indigenous literature on social work research, I took up and I found that what is taught in the schools of social work is not at all useful for social work students, and it's a very totally irrelevant. So with that background, I started working on it, and in all my books, you'll find discussion on social work research. Today, I take it as an opportunity to share with you that all social work researchers, practitioners, teachers must learn and practice and see that the students take up social work research, not social surveys and social science research. With this brief note, I will start. And commonly it's known as social work research, but actually it is social work intervention research. So I'll start with it. First, I think 1 hour, 15 minutes, I'll speak on this topic. Then last 15 minutes will be, I think, question and answer sessions. You can raise questions. I'll try to answer your questions. Okay. So,
Right, sir.
what are the objectives of presenting this paper with this webinar? In my mind, there are a few things I would like to tell you. That first of all, I will introduce you what is the exactly, very precisely, the meaning of social work intervention research. And again, I'll remind you that many people in our country have a misconception about this, and they just use it interchangeably with social science research or quasi-experiment research, which is not. So today, I'll explain you what exactly is social work intervention research. That's my first objective. Second is I will also highlight how social work intervention differs from social science research, right? And third objective is that the design we use for social work intervention research is called single subject design research. And that I'll elaborate it so that you can practice whenever you get a chance to do it. You can ask the students to do it. And after that, I will also describe some of the design. There are many designs, single subject design, but few important single subject design. I'll explain you with some examples so that you will know that what are the designs we use. This is very different from social science research. And then also I'll explain you the process, how we conduct single subject design research. And finally, you will know about social work research, intervention research process, and how we integrate it to our field work. Then only we can see that the intervention research becomes very, very meaningful. Let us first, I'll just recapitulate. I think you are all aware of social science research, but just I'll put it here so that you can compare this with what I'm going to give you in the next few slides. A social science research, commonly is called as social research, is nothing but refers to the scientific study of social facts like human behavior, attitude, opinion, perception, and the whole ultimate goal is the knowledge, to gain knowledge. That is the goal of social science research. I think it's very simple, and keep it in your mind. And when I define social work intervention research, then just you recollect and see that how it differs. And the process is very simple. The four main stages in social science research is we identify a problem, then we formulate hypothesis based on a theory, then we go and collect data, and we draw inferences based on testing of hypotheses. This is basically what we call social research or social science research. Now, coming to the topic which is our concern, that is social work intervention research. And I have tried here to give you a very simple definition so that you can learn now itself and you will never forget it. I say that it refers to social work intervention research, refers to the use of research methods and techniques to assess the effectiveness of social work intervention. I think it is a very simple. That is, we use social work, social science research techniques, methods, but we use for a very specific purpose. That is, we want to assess effectiveness of social work intervention. That what intervention we give in practice, whether it is effective. So that definition you have to remember. Social work intervention research. Use of research methods and techniques to assess the effectiveness of social work intervention. And see the process now. First, we identify a problem. Then you see that pre-intervention measurement. And I think just you can go back to the process of social science research and compare it. So pre-intervention measurement is a new thing, new stage. That is, before intervention, we measure the target problem. Then we give social work intervention. That's the important stage. And again, after intervention, we again measure. That's called post-intervention measurement. And here is important to, very, very important to note that social work intervention. That means it is again different from intervention research in general. There are many disciplines like psychology and other disciplines, they use some kind of intervention research. But here also, we also differ from them also, because we say that our intervention should be social work intervention. And I'm sure you are all aware of it, maybe case work, group work, community organization, or anything. And after the post-intervention, we compare pre and post and draw inferences about social work intervention. This is the process, and you can now compare the definition of research and social work intervention research and the process of social research and process of social work intervention research. And I'm sure it will be clear to all of you that this subject, this topic is entirely different, significantly different from social science research. The focus of social work intervention research is on assessment and understanding changes in the condition of the client after social work intervention. And I'll just take you back to the ultimate goal of social science research. And I hope you remember the ultimate goal of research is knowledge. We do social science research to generate knowledge. Whereas here our goal is, the focus is assessment of or understanding the changes, the condition of the client, which we expect after social work intervention. So in the ultimate goal or focus also, we are very different. Therefore, social work researchers use some specific research design. Now we have to use it because we want to see that whether our intervention is effective. So we cannot use exploratory research or descriptive research like that. So we need some spatial design, which I'll discuss today. And here the intention is to see how best we can measure the effects of social work intervention or changes brought in the condition of the client. This is the region. This is also known as social work intervention research. In foreign, broad developed countries, now they call social work intervention research. But here we use both social work research or social work intervention research. both have same meaning. The underlying principle of social work intervention research is, if a social work intervention is effective, it should be possible to see a change in the client's condition after the intervention. That's the basic principle. If you give intervention, there must be change. And the change should be measurable. That also you have to keep in mind. That I was just telling you about what is the underlying principle of the social work intervention research. It's very simple. We say that when we give social work intervention, we are expecting the change in the client conditions. So the principle says that if there is a change, we can measure it. And we can say that, okay, our intervention is effective. Based on this principle, the whole topic, social work intervention research, is designed. Social workers, as social workers, we provide intervention to individuals, families, and groups in order to help them to solve their problems. Social work interventions are, in fact, combinations of skills applied for the purpose of resolving problems, enhancing adaptive capabilities, and improving the overall psychosocial well-being of the client. As a social worker, we use series of activities to help clients to resolve their problems. That all comes under social work interventions. These activities include, like say, building rapport with the client and his friends or family members, collecting information, study, diagnosis, and intervention. This is all completely social work intervention. I think you all must be very thorough with this. So it involves range of skills and activities. Why I am emphasizing this is there is a misconception among some researchers. They take intervention very simply and it's diluted. Like in business, marketing research, even showing advertisement, a placard, they say intervention and they try to understand the effect of advertisement. We say that, look, we are not like that. Our intervention is a process which involves a lot of activities. That's why I'm telling you about the activities. So we have to assess the process. It takes time. So that makes the social work intervention totally different. Different from even the other people, what they think of intervention is showing a placard or rally, taking a rally. These are all not social. Social work intervention means the package, it's a complete package where combination of the skills, methods are involved. It takes time. Then we see the effect, skills. And I think you are all must be familiar with this, like counseling, facilitation, ventilation of feelings, supportive treatment like guidance, reassurance, suggestions, persuasion, advice, etc., etc. When these are all involved, then we say truly that now it is social work intervention, and then we want to assess the effect of these. Naturally, we need a separate kind of research methodology. So the one design called single subject design we use for measurement of effectiveness of social work intervention, called single subject design. Here, the unit of analysis is one. That's why its name is single. Single subject design means one, where unit of analysis is one. It could be unit of analysis. One means one individual, a family, a group, a community, or an organization. Could be unit of analysis. We can do single subject design. But always the unit of analysis is one. That's why it's named. It's also some authors, research educators says it should be called single subject design, just to make it very simple that it's not only individual, but it could be a system, it could be group, community, or organization. But when we understand single subject design, there's no need to call it like this. So most of the authors today, educators today, they call single subject design, which is very, very commonly used. Hence, in this presentation today, I'll use single subject design. But in some books, you may find single system design. Both are same. This is considered as the most appropriate and very effective design for the study of social work intervention effects on clients, using the client as his or her own control by repeated measurements. This is in fact a quasi-experimental design of social science, and where it uses the time series analysis. So these things we have borrowed, and then we have developed the research methodology. That's the quasi-experiment, and in quasi-experiment we call it time series analysis design, and we use it for evaluation of effectiveness by name single subject design. It has three components. First is called repeated measurement. It's something you find very different from the social science research. Second component is baseline page. The third component is called intervention page. So there are three pages of this single subject design or social work intervention research. Repeated measurement, I will just explain you, which is something very peculiar to this kind of design. It's a unique feature of social work intervention research. I think you must be familiar with the social research, where one measurement generally, most of the researches, we take only once we collect data and submit our research work report. Yes, in experimental research, we take two times, before and after, in social science. Whereas in social work intervention research, we measure or collect data several times. That is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or more even, depending upon the problem and conditions of the client. And the purpose is that we want to be very sure that the client has this problem. So there is no fluctuation, there is a stable readings. So to see that, we go for several, and plus there are some controlling the threats of internal validity. Repeated measurement refer to measurement of the conditions or target problem of the client several times. Usually you will find most of the researchers, they take 5 times reading, and with equal interval, with the same instrument. 5 times we study the client's problem. The problem, say for example, anxiety disorder. We want to see a client is having anxiety disorder, we want to assess it. So we have to measure anxiety disorder by using a standardized scale for, say, anxiety repeatedly, before and after the intervention. Before intervention maybe 5 times, and only after intervention also 5 times. So we call this stage as repeated measurement, one essential component of social work intervention research. The purpose is that, first is that there should be a stable baseline. Once you have the readings and you find that there is a baseline is stable, almost parallel to the axis, then you can say that, okay, now the client has this problem and is very sure that every time we are getting the same score for, say, anxiety. So we call stable baseline. That helps us to compare the intervention line if it is stable. Say repeated measurements of the client's problem before intervention we call baseline stage. There is another point which is also important. You must learn that this helps us to rule out the effects of extraneous variables like maturation or history or testing. A client which is suffering from anxiety, definitely you can say that, look, by maturity also the problem is solved or controlled, or by history something has happened, again it is there. So to rule out this, we go for baseline data 5 times, and then we say that it can't be now maturation or history. So this way we say that we have ruled out the effects of extraneous variable. So the variable, the change which will be there will be just because of our intervention. Then during and after the intervention, we go repeated measurements. Then we come to intervention phase. It refers to repeated measurements of the condition of the client's problem during and after. The moment we start intervention, after a small gap, we start measuring to see that by introducing intervention, if there is a change in the client. So we say during also it could be. So we need not wait for completion of the intervention. We can start measurement, because if the intervention is effective, the change will come. This ensures that the intervention effects are observed long enough to convince the researcher that the intervention produces lasting. There is another point we must note, that you repeated measurement, if you take the intervention and you are getting the same score, or in the after intervention it will be little decreasing or increasing, you can be sure that the intervention has a long effect, because interval between the 5 will be maybe 3 days, 5 days. So you can see that for 10 days or 15 days, the problem is continuously decreasing. Now, I'll share with you the process as I've shown you earlier. Now, in detail, I will tell you about single subject design research. We start with the problem identification, which is common in all. This is followed by need assessment. That is a new thing you have to note down. In social science research, researcher never bothers about need, because they don't want to see that. But in social work research, it's a very essential that we cannot give intervention until unless we know the clients need it. That's the reason after identification of problem, immediately we go for need assessment. We want to see that the client needs our intervention, our help. During the initial stages, the researcher obtains a clear and specific understanding. That is a need assessment. You will get clear understanding of the problem. There are various assessment tools, such as interviewing, or number of standardized scales are there you can use. This is followed by pre-intervention measurement. Now, once you are sure that this is anxiety disorder, then we select maybe Thrissur scale or some scale you can take and measure the client minimum 5 times with equal intervals. It's a before intervention, we call it pre-intervention. The pre-intervention measurement is used as a basis to compare the client's condition after the intervention is introduced. So it's a basis. Pre-intervention scores, we keep it, and then as the score changes, we compare and we say that there is a change in the client's condition. The next stage is implement the social work intervention. We prepare a package, we select the method or skills for the problem identified. Then finally, we assess the effect of intervention. This is the process, that is comparing pre-intervention and post-intervention, and we draw our inferences. Now, data analysis. The results of single subject design research are presented in graphic form. Invariably, all results we prepare a graph. Then generally we look for a pattern or trend of data and the slope of the line graph in analyzing the data from the graph. This is to get the evidence for supporting that the social work intervention is affecting the target problem. Let us take an example of a course obtained by social worker in single subject design research. So you can see that here, these are the baseline scores, and red one you find it's intervention scores. Now taking these scores, we plot the graph, and you can see that in the baseline, and you can see the decreasing trend. Easily we can, I think one can have visual inference, though it's not confirmed, but the visual inference we can draw that the anxiety scores is decreasing, and it's coming almost to the normal. So by graph, that's the advantage. By just having a graph, you can be sure that yes, social work intervention was effective. So we can draw visual inference, we call it, by simple eyeballing. You can see the problem was studied before the intervention, and the curve shows a decreasing trend after the intervention. Now I can just, I'm giving you a flow chart again so that it will be just reinforced in your mind. We start with problem formulation. The second is pre-intervention, and that is, of course, understood that need assessment is there in between. Then we go for social work intervention, plan, strategy, and how we take actions. Then we collect again data post-intervention. Both we use the same intervention measurement tool, and comparing the data pre and post, we draw inferences. Now, second part I'm entering into, that is types of single subject design. First, this will give you the idea. Very briefly, I will explain you the very common types of single subject design. If you are interested, if you get interested in this, then you can see any of the books of social work research. You will get number of designs, and you can pick up a design which will suit your problem. We have 4 designs which is very commonly used by social workers. First one, we call it AB design, the basic single subject design. ABA, reversal design. ABAD, withdrawal reversal design. ABCD we call multiple component or treatment design. These are the 4 basic, you can say very commonly used by the social work researchers. AB design is a very simple, very basic design. Here we have 1 baseline phase and 1 intervention phase. And graphical presentation of AB design is this. You can see here baseline, one baseline and 1 intervention. And we see the trend and we come to the conclusion. This is a simple design. The second one is ABA design. Here you have 2 baselines and 1 intervention. A represents baseline, B represents intervention. It's also known as reversal design. It involves discontinuing of the social work intervention and creating second baseline. The second baseline is established after intervention as a follow-up. I think you are familiar with the follow-up. So research also helps you to show the follow-up. You create second baseline after the intervention is over. And here there are two possibilities. One, the effect of intervention, it persists. So the trend will be the same for longer time. That proves that the effect of social work intervention is continuing. Second is that in case the baseline is not decreasing but it's increasing, means that intervention was, not for long period, did not persist. In both the cases, now you can come to a conclusion. This design answers the questions left unanswered by the AB design. When you conduct AB design, there will be a question always that we have given intervention, but after intervention, did it persist? You will not be able to answer. You say that yes, in the study period, there was effect, but after the study I left, I don't know. So to support that intervention persists, continues, we use this ABA design. It's more rigorous than the AB design, more authenticity of the effectiveness intervention you can prove by ABA design. Depending upon length of follow-up period, it may also be possible to learn how long the effect of intervention persists. You can show that this persists for so long. So naturally, now it will continue. Graphical presentation is this: first baseline, first intervention, then second baseline. Here in this case, you can see the baseline is not following the decreasing trend. That means after your intervention, it seems that it did not persist. The intervention was almost again going back to the establishment, establish the baseline. Here, the intervention is again required. So for that, now we go to the next design. We call it AB design. It's also known as withdrawal reversal design. Withdrawal reversal design has two baseline stages, that is 2A you can see, and two intervention. That's A, B, B. That's called withdrawal reversal design. The second intervention is identical to the first. That's the condition here. You have to use the same instrument, and you have to again give the same social work intervention. This is the condition for AB design. This is very useful in social work research, where you prove second time that your social work intervention was effective, and then there cannot be any doubt about our effect. Because nobody can prove second time that intervention effect is this. So this is very stronger than earlier two designs. That is, suppose you are planning for your doctoral research, this AB design is most appropriate. For a master's or MPhil, we suggest AB or ABA design. For example, if during the follow-up phase, second baseline, the effect of intervention began to reverse, as I have shown you in the earlier graph, ABA design, you have seen, after the intervention, the graph shows that the client has gone back to its earlier conditions. So intervention did not persist. Intervention was effective, but it could not persist. It could not continue. So when second baseline shows that it has reverted back on the initial stage of this. So that is the one case where we need this ABA design. By doing intervention again and proving that social work intervention is effective, that by giving the intervention second time, you can see that there is a change. The client has come to the normal second time. graphic presentation is like this. First baseline, first intervention, second baseline, second intervention. Now, I'll share with you one real research. It has been reported in a textbook of social work research. Very interesting for all of you. A school approached a social work researcher with a complaint about a class of students who were misbehaving with the teachers all the time in the class. Researcher had a number of sessions with the students. Researcher accepted the project. They say, okay, I'll do a research and I'll give you the truth. So researcher had a number of sessions with the students to identify what are the basic causes of misbehaving with teachers. During interactive sessions with the students, the researcher observed that the self-esteem of the students were very low. And they saw that, okay, they are not interested in future. Simple. Not interested in career. It is just a pastime coming to school. So with this, researcher had one point in mind that self-esteem of students are low. And it could be the reason for their misbehavior. So one thing, he got it. And all of them, all the students with the researcher interacted, they complained that in our class, punishment is very frequently it's given. Sometimes, without any reasons, the teacher will give some punishment. So these are the two clues researcher could get through interactive session with the students. She planned the research accordingly, and she thought of using this ABA design by one is that to improving the self-esteem, and she thought of using a role play to improve the self-esteem as a social work intervention. And she requested the school authorities to instruct teachers not to give punishment while the research is being conducted. Authorities accepted it. They said, okay, if this research is just for a month or two, so please don't give punishment. Let them do whatever they want for a time period. Let us see the research studies result. We had a measurement. Use the ABAB design, self-esteem, prove self-esteem of troublesome students of a class. Here one interesting thing I would like to mention that the researcher also went through the report cards of the students, and she found that they were in general, they were very intelligent. Their IQ levels, grading and all were very high. Grade points and all are very well. So that made her to take up the research and conduct that. If they are so intelligent, why they are not interested in career, in future, and why they are misbehaving? First, she established the baseline and found how frequently the troublesome activities occurred, and also measured self-esteem level of students. So two things she measured: number of misbehaves, and one instrument she used to measure self-esteem of the children. And with this, baseline was established. And then she organized a role play, a social work intervention, and recorded the frequency of troublesome activities and self-esteem. And then she presented her research outcomes to the school authorities. But some of the teachers, as usual, commented that the frequencies of troublesome activities might have decreased just because of the informal interactive session of the researcher, organized by the researcher, maybe just chance. This activity has come down just because of the chance. It's not anything research. Researcher took this point, and then there was a vacation. In fact, he wanted to prove it again. So after the vacations, he conducted the same study again using same instrument, same interval, and the vacation was treated as a withdrawal. See, researcher established second again baseline, and role play was social intervention, and again after that he had post-intervention measurement. And see the graphs he had. That is, there is the first baseline, and it shows misbehavior, light brown, and the blue one is the self-esteem, which was very low. Misbehavior was very high, and after the intervention, misbehavior has decreased and self-esteem has increased. And there was a vacation, so it's called as withdrawal session. After that, she again established the baseline. She found that misbehavior has gone back again to the same level, but self-esteem had still in their mind higher self-esteem. He had again role play, and she showed again that misbehavior has come down as the role play was completed, and self-esteem has still went up. Now, with this, nobody can question that it was by chance, because the researcher had proved twice the effect of social work intervention. So it cannot be said that it is just by chance. It's ruled out. Then we have fourth design, we call ABCD design or multiple component design. Here, nature of intervention changes over time, and reach the change represent a new phase of the design. We use several interventions, different type of intervention. Just like when you go to a doctor, a medicine is given and it's not effective. The doctor changes the medicine and sees that if the second medicine affects. Same thing here you find in ABCD design. We use first, B is the first intervention, A is baseline, B is first intervention, C is second intervention, and D is the third intervention. This design is also used to compare two or more interventions to know which intervention is most effective. Here, one example, hypothetical example is here. It's a study of alcoholic, and you can see the y-axis. It's alcoholic scores. First baseline was created by using one instrument called alcoholic index. Alcoholic index. That is the instrument by which you can measure the alcoholic scores, and baseline was established. So first intervention was experiencing sharing in relation to the drinking behavior. Sharing their experience, how alcoholic felt after drinking, what experience he had, and researcher found some effect. You can see here. Then she thought of using another intervention. That intervention is known as cost and benefit analysis. The researcher explained the cost of drinking and its benefits. Assuming that after realizing costs and benefits, the alcoholic's score will come down. There was some decrease here. Still, researcher was not satisfied, so she used the third intervention, and this is what exactly in social work we prescribe. Methods of resolving problems. Training the alcoholic, giving them the training, how to resolve their problem on their own. We call method of resolving, training the alcoholic, the methods of resolving their own problem. And this was found to be most effective. This is called ABCD, the multiple component design. Now, after this designs, now I'm just trying to explain you one research project which was completed under my supervision here in Hyderabad. This was at the MA level, dissertation level. Girl was placed in Apollo Hospital, Cancer Division, where the patients who were advised surgery, they were waiting for their surgery. They had a lot of anxiety disorder, and doctors said that we cannot operate, we cannot conduct surgery until unless their anxiety level is normal. Otherwise, our post-operative effects will be very worse. So this was topic taken by the student, and the objectives of the research was first to study the level of anxiety in a patient waiting for undergoing surgery, and second was to assess the effectiveness of social work intervention. These were the two objectives. We selected AB, the basic single subject design for our study. That is one baseline and one intervention. In this research design, the effectiveness of social work intervention is ascertained by comparing the target problem during after the intervention phase with that of the baseline phase. And for the need assessment phase, she had observed and also consulted the doctors, nurses, and got the indicators to know that she is a patient of anxiety and she needs some intervention. The four indicators she could find was loss of normal sleep, high BP, frequent urination, and heart palpitations or racing heart. These were the four indicators of anxiety disorder. Pre-intervention measurement. He administered a standardized scale developed by Hire. It's called clinical anxiety scale to measure the level of anxiety. To establish the baseline, the measurement was repeated 5 times with a 3-day interval between the observation. So, assess the stable pattern of change in the target problem. Then she prepared intervention strategies, consulting with other medical social workers, other senior teachers, that what will make their life more comfortable. That only can reduce the anxiety level. And they can do better normal social function. With this diagram, she developed intervention strategies which will bring down the intensity of anxiety, psychological state, better coping, adjustment. These are all expected outcomes. Keeping in mind, she said she had a package of, I'll go back, individual counseling, supportive treatment, facilitation, ventilation of feelings, and universalization. These are the package she prepared. Then third page, post-intervention assessment. Again, they use the same instrument, that is Thiers clinical anxiety scale. Again, 5 times, same interval, same instrument. With the interval, equal interval, and see the results in table 1. I'm showing you. This is the tabular form, pre-intervention, blue, and red is post-intervention scores. Data analysis, baseline, compared to data collected after intervention. In order to infer that intervention is effective, that is, change in the target problem can be attributed to the social work intervention, we look for shifts in the trend or pattern of data. I've already mentioned you. The pattern trend of data is identified by plotting the data on a graph and then observing whether the trend is clearly increasing or decreasing. And in the graph, and you can see that anxiety is unpleasant behavior, so there will be a decreasing trend. So visually you can see that yes, intervention was effective. Anxiety is an undesirable behavior, hence researcher expected decreasing trend that you can see here. Therefore, researcher may conclude that social work intervention was effective in case of anxiety disorder. But visual analysis of data, though, is very useful and simple way of assessing cause-effect relationship, has its own limitations. That means to draw conclusions, we have to have some fact, some support to support that the trend is decreasing and intervention is effective. So we have to prove it that because of intervention, there is a change in the intervention score. And for that, we have to use some statistical tests. We have a number of statistical tests for single subject designs to rule out that cause-effect relationship is not by chance. There are a number of statistical tests to prove that it is not by chance. One simple method I will share with you. There are a number of methods in the textbook of research, you can get it. The simplest one is two standard deviation method. Very simple. Mean of the baseline score we calculate. In this case, 57.2 was the mean of baseline scores. Then we calculate standard deviation, a 2.29. Then we calculate 2SD because the name is 2 standard deviation. So 2SD is 4.6. Then we create a range, that is mean plus minus 2SD. So we say 57.2 plus minus 4.6. So range is now 61.8 to 52.6. In rounded off, we can say that the range is 62 to 53. And you can say that 62 to 53, the scores, post-intervention score comes in between this, means there is no change, no intervention was not effective. That means the score should be beyond this range, either lower than 53 or higher than 62, depending upon the client's problem, whether it's increasing, you are expecting increasing outcome or decreasing. In this case of anxiety, we are expecting decreasing. So then we have to take the lower limit of this range. Lower limit is 53. Now we have to see that how is our post-intervention score. And the rule is that at least 2 social work intervention, post-intervention scores should be less than 52. That means beyond 53, minimum 2. That's the rule. Now we will say in this case, for statistical inference, we have to see that the intervention, post-intervention scores are beyond the lower limit at 0.05 level. So this is the rule, minimum 2 post-interventions. So out of 5, 2 must be lesser than the lower limit, because in case of decreasing trend, suppose you are doing some research on increasing, like self-esteem, for example, self-esteem will be now increasing after your intervention. Then you have to take the higher limit, 62, and you have to see that the post-intervention scores are beyond 62 at 0.05 level. Looking at the post-intervention scores in table 1, it's in slide number 83. So I just take you back to slide number 83. Now you can see the post-intervention score, and I have just said that post-intervention score out of 5, 2 should be less than 53. In this case, you can see 51, 50, 49, 49, 40. All the 5 scores, post-intervention scores, are less than 53. So, very excellent result. And now, based on this, we'll go back to our slide. We'll go back to our now we can draw the conclusion. Visual analysis, yes, it's very obvious. Then we'll go for statistical testing. And based on statistical testing, now we can say that the social work intervention was effective, and it was statistically significant change had been brought by social work intervention. I've just explained you. We needed only 2 scores, but here all the 5 scores are below 53. So undoubtedly, we can conclude that by line graph also you can see here, the post-intervention score of researcher was 51, 50, 49, 49. That all are less than 53. As per statistical requirement, at least 2 scores should be less than 53. So it is very obvious that the intervention was very significant, beyond any doubt. Therefore, we can infer that effect of social work intervention with a case of anxiety disorder was statistically significant. Now we can draw a conclusion. That is research finding. The anxiety in patient has been lessened to an extent in which the patient, who was well prepared psychologically to undergo surgery, that was an indicator of by the client. He was ready for surgery and again coped up well with post-operative period. That was also reported by researcher. Researcher could visualize the symptoms of cheerfulness, courage in face of anxiety, and also she could see that restlessness was gone, racing heart was not there. These also changed she recorded in her research work and submitted her report. We had adjusted with the surgery and hospitalizations and was discharged with a very happy note. The last part of my presentation is how these researches, social work intervention research, can be reality. Today, after presentation, many teachers also ask that, is it possible? Can we do this research? Because sometimes they say there is a very limited time, 1 semester, 2 semester. How we can do that? We can do that. I assure you that if you follow this last part, you can do it. Everybody can do it. I have experimented in a number of schools of social work in our country where students are now taking up social work intervention research. Some of the institutes, it's 90% students will take intervention research. Some of the schools is 50, 60, like that. So you just see that what I'm suggesting you that for that one essential requirement is that social work research and social work practice should be integrated. Unlike social science research, which is a theoretical subject, it is taught in the classroom using blackboard, and that is impossible. You can say it's impossible to practice it, and there is no relevance in the field work. What you do in field work has nothing to do with what is taught in the classroom, survey and research what you teach. So the student find it very embarrassing that why this subject is taught, which we cannot use in the practice. So now I'm suggesting you, and just carefully you see that, and teachers, I suggest that you give a try and see that what is the result, and let me know. I call it integrating. In my books, all books I have mentioned this elaborately, you can refer, but in brief, I'm suggesting you the points. See that what all you have to do from the very beginning of your social work training. First of all, we have to understand that there are differences between social work research and social work practice, field work. However, there is significant similarities between two: research, social work research, and social work field work practice. There is significant similarity. And what are those similarities? We begin with problem identification, research. Then we, in research, social work research, we select research design, AB design, OA design. Then you plan for your social work intervention or pre-measurement first, then social work intervention, then post-measurement. You compare the data and you conclude your research part. These are the research. Now, just to look at your field work. In field work also, when you are placed in the field work, you are asked by teachers to identify the problem which you want to take up for your fieldwork practice. Same way, so you can say that this is the identification stage. You select a problem in such a way where your fieldwork practice, you can integrate research here. That kind of problem you have to pick up in the field where you can have research. So you conduct need assessment in the fieldwork. There also in research we conduct need assessment. Then pre-measurement is not there in your fieldwork. So that is the part of the research. Select one instrument, one standardized scale, and have the pre-measurement of your problem, whom you are going to practice as a fieldwork, social work learner. You first keep the measurement, that will be your baseline. Then social work intervention, we need for research as well as for the fieldwork. After your intervention, we measure again, post intervention measurement we take, and then we compare, and you keep on writing your fieldwork records. You can have research simultaneously along with your fieldwork reporting. Fieldwork is a narrative reporting. In research, you have used the instrument, you have used the statistics, so it becomes a research document, and you can submit when you submit for your fieldwork, Viva, you can submit your dissertation. It will go along with the fieldwork, and you will be completing within your fieldwork duration 2 semesters. See the steps. Again, I'm repeating it. Social work research steps: problem identification, pre-intervention measurement, social work intervention, post-intervention, and then you draw conclusions. Now, practice in fieldwork, what you do: problem identification, need assessment you do, research also you do, intervention, research also you need, and here you do evaluation. The two missing thing is pre-measurement and post-measurement. Simply, if you introduce this in your fieldwork, you can have excellent research results. The problem you identify, need assessment, and here you introduce measurement, pre-intervention and post-intervention, and it will also have a research report, excellent social work research report. I call it integrated. Here you can see both side by side I'm giving you. Problem identification is common. Pre-intervention is a new thing, you have to do it, just that. The need assessment, you do in both. Social work intervention, you do in both. Then you have an additional thing here, post-intervention, and you draw conclusion. Here you, as you say, you do evaluate your fieldwork performance, and simultaneously you will be ready with your research report. And both put together will go simultaneously. This you can make a chart, keep it on your study table, or those who are fieldwork coordinator, you can display a chart this in your fieldwork coordinator's office. If the students follow this, they will be having excellent experience of research and social work practice. There is an integrated step, I call it. So you are getting evaluation report, fieldwork evaluation report, as well as research conclusion. Now, you may be having a question that why integration? Partly I have already answered you that intervention research is something practice-based research. So we have to integrate the practice. Then only you can have social work intervention. It's not a theoretical research like social research, sitting in a room, you collect data, analyze, use computer, analyze, and submit a report. It's a practice-based research where it involves practice, intervention. So we call it intervention research. What will be the benefit? Very simple. It is an opportunity for social workers to make a significant difference in your professional standard. Today, we call ourselves professionals, but we know very well that we are not professionals. We are a little better than the voluntary social workers with some knowledge, but if you use this scientific steps, research in your fieldwork, your professional standards will go up, your accountability will be showing that what I have done, here is its effectiveness. And this makes your practice, scientific practice, remember, very important. Now what you are doing, it's very difficult. You have to prove it that it's a scientific, and it's very difficult to prove because it's mostly narrative. You are very good in language and all, you can present excellent fieldwork report. But if you're using research component in it, your fieldwork report will be very scientific report, and you can very well, broadly, you can claim that my practice is a scientific practice. Social workers, we go for scientific practice. Now, let us sum up what all you have learned in this session. First, social work research refers to the use of research methods to evaluate the effectiveness of social work intervention. It's a combination of skills applied for the purpose of resolving problems. Single subject design is very appropriate for the study of social work intervention effects on clients using the case as its own control. There are 4 types: AB, ABA, ABAB, ABCD. The process of single subject design research involves formulation research problem, establishment of baseline, implementation of social work intervention, post-intervention measurement, and drawing of conclusions. There are similarities between research and practice, but there are some significant similarity and differences also. But both it is possible to integrate to make social work practice as a scientific practice. That's a very strong point. Why you should study social work research and how you can make very useful experience, rich experience of social work practice. The end of session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And, of course, apart from the fact that it was a very informative session presented in the simplest of ways, I think the fact that even people from other disciplines will be drawn to social work and social work research through listening to your lecture makes you a true educator. Thank you so much, sir. The forum is now open for discussions. You may unmute your mic if you want to ask a query or voice an opinion, or you may send it as chat messages. Participants.
Yeah.
There's a lot of appreciation for you, sir, that's pouring in the chat messages.
So, Nari, thank you. Welcome.
So, I am a research scholar. I have some doubt.
Yeah.
Tell
me.
Ask you.
Yeah.
Please enlighten me about human rights practice as a social work intervention in social work research. Because reviews shows that it is more sustainable at macro level. Please.
Yeah, it is micro-based research. Start with macro. Micro, there's a starting point. You are at the starting point of research. Later, you can do, when you are a good researcher, you can go for macro, meso and macro. Now you are not fit for even macro. Your research base is very poor. With that research knowledge, what you get at your ML level, you cannot do study with the policy and the national level or the macro level, right? As a social worker, basically we are micro level practices. Yeah.
Sir, I am a social work practitioner and I had been doing it. I only want to know how sustainable it would be when we apply human rights methods.
Human rights methods, what is that? See, this is very humble.
Universal human rights.
Very humble suggestion. What's your name, you said?
For example,
okay.
I am Leela Devasya. For example, child rights.
Listen me first, then you think of what I have presented today. Take it seriously. Yeah. And I have suggested you to start with your practice, simple. What you do in casework, what you do in field work, there you introduce research. Forget about child rights and human rights and women, all those things are very high level talking. But first of all, we have to start with the very simple things. So that you keep it for pending for some time. First, you do a small research where you can prove that your practice is scientifically proved. The outcomes are authentic. That is my suggestion. There are human rights pockets. Let them do that study. As a social worker, you do some of the practice-based research. That's my suggestion. You are a social worker, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So do social work research first.
Okay.
Yes, sir. There's a question on the chat message from Preeta ma'am. How is it feasible to conduct group intervention, especially during this COVID time? How is it feasible to conduct group intervention, especially during the pandemic?
Yeah, in pandemic, it's impossible because group intervention needs the direct intervention. You cannot have social work intervention virtual. Virtual intervention, it cannot be a change, the client's behavior. So that is now it's impossible. but it's just you have to wait. And if you want to do, you can do. There are a number of studies reported by researchers. We have used the group work method. There is one ICSR project completed by Tilak Maharashtra University, Pune. There they have conducted a social work intervention research using group work method.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sir,
thank
can
you,
a
sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Freedom, continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sir, one query. Can a qualitative method be used to provide this intervention rather than a group activity?
No, see, there are lot of confusion about qualitative research. People have a very misconception about the qualitative research. I must tell you, Rita, that it's a classical method of research, but diluted like anything. Today, what people think of qualitative research is not at all research. It's a kind of something, story writing, scientific, some systematic is story writing, we can call it. It's a great kind of research, and one has to spend a lot of time. Today, researchers, how much time do you have? A qualitative research needs years, at least 2 years, 3 years study, visiting the field 1,000 times or 500 times, and getting the reality. Today, nobody has that time. So what do? You go as a visitor, tourist, collect some data, and then contemplate something, and you present. It does not have. Today, I have not seen in my whole last 30 years good qualitative research which can be called really as good qualitative research, except M.N. Srinivas in Bangalore, what he was professor in Oxford. He has presented the field and field worker or village remembered. That's a classic research. Read that, then see that what is qualitative research. Today, what people are thinking, to my mind, excuse me, I pardon if somebody is hurt, I feel it is some kind of escapism, from the real research, basic research, that is knowing little bit of statistics, little bit of knowing how to have the cause-effect relationship, how to establish it, how to test its authenticity. These things are forgetting, and then you are going to something which is of very high level, and you make a shortcut there. So it does not, you are neither at the qualitative research nor quantitative research. Yeah, that's my personal. If you're not agreeing with me, you can excuse me, right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Anish KR has asked, can you discuss the scope of randomized control trial in social work intervention? Can you discuss the scope of randomized control trial in social work intervention?
Sorry, I have presented in 115 slides social work research. Now, spending that time, it needs a lot of preparation and presenting. That's a big issue. Randomized trial is a big, you can follow some textbook, but maybe some other session, I will definitely I would like to handle it, but not for this. Will be irrelevant for social work practice research.
Okay, thank you, sir. We definitely have a scope for another session here then. Rosemary T. George ma'am has asked, is it possible to conduct intervention research for evaluating a government program? Is it possible to conduct intervention research for evaluating a government program?
100%. 100% it is possible. You have to plan, and you can. Because, in fact, it's an area where you can have a lot of intervention research. Most of the government programs are implemented without having any research. If you have a touch with the government authorities and all, you can just plan it. Before program is launched, you can just plan for a pre-intervention measurement, and then after launching, you go for post-program, launch, and you can have wonderful intervention research, because intervention will be automatically by them, and you can just be a researcher. You can take the data and present your report, excellent report. There was a study on midday meal. There is a study, you can go to the Google and you can find out. It was a government program, and it was assessed. First, it was assessed only post experiment. Then there was a study which has taken also the pre and post. There are studies. Yeah.
If there are any more questions. Sir, Alvin Babu sir has asked, what kind of intervention can you use while we conduct a study about tribal community? What kind of intervention can we use for a study about tribal community? Sir, your thoughts?
Yeah, see, what I feel from this participant, that that's my request. Again, humbly, I'm submitting you. Come out of that, what is now put in your mind, you are talking at a level which has nothing to do with the social work. So if you are a social worker and you want to do social work research, you think of the areas or subject or issues which are our concern. This cyber intervention and all, I think now it's not relevant for social work practices.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for engaging with all the participants. Yes?
Excuse me,
Free
just one more doubt.
Yes.
When the intervention thing is considered, we usually go for a group intervention program. Like we do the screening, we get enough people for intervention after the need assessment, and then we plan out an intervention program. We do the pre and then social work intervention and the post, as you have explained.
Yeah.
And but if I plan to do it because of certain situations as it is prevailing now due to COVID, if I conduct casework, if I use casework as an approach, is it possible? Like instead of doing a group thing, approaching them case-wise, is that acceptable?
I'll correct your experience. It's just the other way around. Most of the researches are individual, and that is the true kind of social work research. So working with individual in this pandemic and all will be wonderful experience, wonderful subject, using one unit, one individual. You select a client who has got a problem and conduct the study. Even in pandemic, you can contact, you can visit with mask and all your sanitizer, you can interview and you can conduct. So that usually we conduct the individual, because see, your intervention, we are not so strong. The technique we don't, in the 2 semesters or 3 semesters, the intervention technique, counseling are not very strong. So thinking of group intervention is little higher level intervention.
Right.
Seeing the change in the group is more difficult than seeing the change in the individual. So more usually I suggest for single subject design, one unit. You take one case, which is a typical maybe depression, anxiety, attempted suicide. There are so many cases which you can take, and you can even counseling on telephone. You can be the video conferencing, you can give intervention. Now in this pandemic, you can use video conferencing, and there can be wonderful, the intervention research with the individual. So let us start with the individual. That is my suggestion, and with all teachers, Mini and Asha. Asha is not joining this session. Asha is not there.
I sent her link, but she has not joined, I think, sir.
Okay. Anyway, so you must try. I'm so happy that you have got this session, and I have told you about my whole experience, and I would like you to initiate and let our students do the research what they are supposed to do, instead of doing something which a political science student can do or economics student can do the research. You do a research which they cannot do it. If you do a casework research using casework intervention, do you think any other discipline researcher can do it? No, a political science student cannot do it. So we can say that, look, this is social work research, which only I can do it. I mean, the trained social worker can do it. So we should reach that level. Your expert.
So then how many people can we, is there any limit, like when it comes to intervention for casework?
No,
how many people?
No limit, Prita, but depending upon your time, how much time you have, because each individual needs, say, 5 readings twice, and also there is social work intervention time for each you have to determine. Suppose it needs 1 week. So each unit will take, say, 3 weeks to 4 weeks. So you can take, 10 if you take 10 weeks, like that. So depending upon your time, ability, and your experience, expertise, resources, you can select.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So we come to the end of the session to express our gratitude on behalf of all the participants, organizers. May I please call upon Ms. Preeta Menon, a research scholar, Department of Social Work, Vimala College, Thrissur. Over to you, Preeta ma'am.
She came to Hyderabad.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
My
no?
privilege.
Okay, good. Elderly women, you are working. Elderly, huh?
It's middle-aged women, sir.
Okay, but
Middle-aged
yeah,
housewives.
number,
Yes.
you can do it. Intervention through, this online, virtual. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Without knowledge, action is useless, and knowledge without action is futile. And as Kalamji puts it, knowledge with action converts adversity into prosperity. It is my privilege to extend our profound gratitude to our Honorable Principal, Dr. Sister Beena Jose, Vimala College, who has blessed us with her presence and took out valuable time from her busy schedule. Thank you, ma'am, for your enthusiastic support all throughout. I feel deeply honored to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our beloved Dr. Laldas sir for allotting his precious time for such an informative session like this. Social work intervention research is an arena that needs a tactful implementation of strategies which are unique by themselves. You're indeed a great treasure house of experience when it comes to social work intervention research, sir. Sir, your skills, knowledge you have imparted have been thoroughly enlightening and thought-provoking. Your content today will be echoed in our minds for a long time to come. We look forward to your continued support and guidance in future too. With a deep sense of appreciation and gratitude, I recall the efforts of our dear IQAC coordinator, Dr. Minimol K. and Maya Devi, and the entire coordinating team for having organized such a great and meaningful event amid this time of pandemic. Thanks once again for your unflinching support and coordination. A heartfelt thanks to our dear participants for their active participation and cordial cooperation. This would not have materialized without you, dear friends. Thanks to one and all for your enormous support for making this event a successful one. With this, we move on to the end of today's webinar. Stay safe and healthy through these unusual times. Thank you and have a good day. Namaskar.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeta ma'am. With that vote of thanks, that is definitely not enough to convey the love and respect we have for you, sir. And to tell you that when I read through the entire profile, I came across a lot of designations, but through the session, what we understand is you are a true educator through and through. Thank you, sir, for being a part of our humble attempt. We wind up by expressing thanks to the principal, the IQAC, the Research and Consultancy Cell, Dr. Laldas, and of course, all the participants. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.